All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen of Twitch chat, welcome to the stream. You are just in time for the June Nova Cup. Let me hop into my caster's channel and see who our surprise guest is this month. Oh, it's none other than the random American dude himself. It's Mr. Ofma. Welcome to the stream, dude.
Thank you, Tom.
How are
How's it
you?
going?
Yeah, all good here, all good here. Very excited for the games today.
Yes, I'm excited about the new dream team forming up.
Oh, absolutely. By the way, your camera is currently just a very small picture of like a Unity asset.
Turn it on.
Oh, still not on?
I think I turned it on now.
There we go, there we go. What a face. Guys, Twitch chat, say hello to Ofma for the first time on stream. Welcome, dude.
Hello, hello. Thank you, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, likewise, it's a pleasure for you to join me, dude. And we've got a really cool matchup for our first round today as well. We've got Shadowwings and Toho versus Doofus McDooface and L1. So a bit of an interesting one there. What do you think about that one? Have you got a favourite or?
It's quite close. You would probably say Shadow is the strongest player among the four, but
Yep.
paired with, the lower rated teammate, but you know how Shadow can control a game and make great calls, so
Yeah,
anything's
absolutely.
possible.
Yeah.
And for sure, we got to give credit to Doofus and L1 for, they've been playing quite a bit. And, I think Doofus got 2.6 recently. So that's some big props to him.
Yeah, he did.
They're improving guns.
That was actually a big reason why I chose to cast this game first on the stream today, because I know Doofus has been really grinding his way up the ladder, and he was struggling for a long time to hit that 2400. And then just the other day, he went on a massive win streak, ended up at like 2650 or something like this. So we've got to give the man some credit, and we've got to like give him some time on the big screen, if you like. So yeah, it'd be an interesting one to cast. And like you say, Shadowwings is the highest elo player in this match, but his mate is also the lowest. So it's a pretty balanced match, I think, with Doofus and L1 on one side, both pretty solid, like middle of the road. I say middle of the road. We're still talking top 50 players here, so middle of the road is still pretty impressive. But they're middle of the road top 50 players, and they're against like a top 10 player in Shadowwings and Toho, who's still kind of working his way up the ladder. So it'll be a really interesting match. I'm not quite sure which way to call it. I would probably still give the edge to Shadowwings and Toho personally, just because Shadow is a really great shot caller. But I'd love to see Doofus and L1 prove me wrong as well. So whoever wins, I'm pretty happy. And I'm just interested to watch the match.
Yeah, and another thing to note is I'm not too sure about Toho, but the other three players are all playing different mastermind options than your standard stuff, and they've got some nice practice playing, like cool stuff like Fiesta, which can really shape how the game is played and the pace of it.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
that will be interesting to look for as well.
Yeah, I know Doofus and L1 both have played Fiesta a lot. So has Shadow. And also cash out, I think, is pretty big. So I think one thing we can say for sure is this won't be like a four-player greed match like we've seen in some of the previous Nova Cups. It's a bit too vanilla, it's a bit too boring. These guys are going to mix it up.
Yeah. I think, for example, like in the last Nova Cup, when I played against L1 and Doofus, L1 was playing Lock-in Sakura when Sakura first came out.
Lock-in Sakura.
Yeah. It was a pretty interesting like games against him.
Yeah. It'd be pretty exciting to see what these guys do then. So I'm definitely expecting one Fiesta player, although maybe someone's going to get a bit cold feet and don't quite dare to go Fiesta on the main event. But I would really love to see at least one of the players pick Fiesta. On top of that, like I say, I'm definitely expecting cash out. I'm probably expecting maybe like a castle or a cartel thrown in there as well.
Yeah, Shadow does like to mix up what he's playing. He's actually very hard to play against in tourney just for that reason. Like, the reads you have on him he's unpredictable, really impossible.
Right? Yeah. And he keeps it fresh that way, so you can't predict what he's going to do. And obviously Shadow is kind of like famous in the Legion community for being a really long style of player. But he doesn't always do that. Like give him a carry
Mhm.
roll, give him castle or something like that, and he will snowball into the late game as well. So, like you say, he's just a very unpredictable kind of player. He does tend towards the long starve gameplay, possibly more than a lot of other high elo players. But it's not the only play in his book, right? He can be
Right.
flexible when he needs to be.
Yeah, and like a lot of times on ladder, you'll be expecting the long save and thinking about your weak waves too
Yeah,
hard, and then you just get incomed when you're not expecting it, and there's some disaster happening.
I need to try and make my camera not be the darkest thing known to man, but I don't know how I can do that. What? All right, we've got a lobby full, so we might be about ready to go. Let me just ask the players when they're ready.
I know something that we always pay attention to when we run into Shadow on the ladder is who's getting the sends from Shadow.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
that person is probably gonna have the harder game.
absolutely, dude. That's the same when I play with like Julian or Green or something. When we queue into Shadow, it's like, oh no, I'm getting starved. Yeah, the guy
Yeah,
surely knows how to put on some pressure.
yeah. You can even think about your roles differently.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe
You,
making like bigger shifts, trying to make reads on his sense.
you have to kind of change the whole way you play. Like, I would choose a different Legion starter. I would probably choose a different role if I know that Shadow's sending to me. Like, I'm not going to go for a hard carry role because I know I'm going to be starved. I'm probably not going to go
Right.
for a castle because I know if I do, I'll die in the first 10 waves. It's like,
Yeah.
you've got to adapt, right? But anyway,
Yeah.
guys, without further ado, here we are. It is game number one, Shadow Wings and
Oh my
Toho Co.
lord.
And that
It's
is
four different.
four different masterminds. Brilliant. So, as we said, yeah, these guys really have mixed it up. It's Lock in Toho, it's Cartel Shadow, it's Fiesta on Doofus, and Cash Out on L1. So, we see four completely different masterminds and not agreed in sight.
Yeah, and presumably we see some potential great openers. Doofus with the Windhawk, so you can even hide that you're playing Fiesta for a bit.
Yeah, that's really
Um,
solid, actually. It's one of the best Fiesta openers you can get, right?
yep. And we got the holding machine.
Pyro on Toho. Goes for a bit of a mid lane Pyro, though.
Yeah.
Third column. I'm not sure
I
about
will
that.
say from my time watching Mr. Slickens, I've learned when you play Pyro, you really want to just keep your stuff in the first two lanes, so your Pyro isn't missing his spells later.
Yeah, exactly. Because like this, sometimes the wave can wrap around, and the Pyro
Mhm.
ends up only hitting half the creeps.
So we see a unusual opener, a very slow one,
Very slow
and
opener.
that's gonna hurt the the Avenger
Yeah.
as he's only on two workers, of course.
Yeah, the other downside to the Avenger is, of course, you know that your mate is leaking with the Windhawk start. So you're going to
Hmm.
be stuck on 2 or 3 workers for a very long time.
Yeah, honestly, with Cash Out and Fiesta, I would have liked to see a little more aggressive start from the Cash Out player and capitalize on the long waves with the extra gold and pushing workers early.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a great start for Doofus. He gets the 2 creep leak with Fiesta, pretty much perfect. He did get starved though. Toho and Shadow both holding on to their Mythium here, going for a wave 2 send. Although Shadow has to now send a Lizard into an Avenger, which is clearly just 12 gold for L1. Not possible for him to leak here.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but income is still income, so he's
Yeah.
not going to be too unhappy.
And Toho actually continues to save.
Interesting. Maybe looking for a wave 3 on the Windhawk.
Wave 3's is okay, and like he's going to get Fiend before income, I think. Doofus will not be able to Fiesta here.
Yep, had to play safe, so I don't mind the save, right? Trying to limit a Fiesta player's options.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very impressed that Doofus went for the Fiesta, by the way. I'm happy with his choices.
Yeah, you love to see that.
Yeah. Oh, Shadow actually maybe going for the Fiesta for him though. This is pretty close. Come on, who's gonna
Yeah,
win?
he did get that snail.
Oh, shout out to Lisk, by the way, fixing the damage meters in spectate mode. So now I can click on
Oh,
one of the players' units and see how much damage they did in the previous wave. That's pretty interesting.
oh, that's pretty nice.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a bit less interesting for the players who only have one unit.
We'll have to say that Toho did get 60 before income, but chose not to go for the fiend.
Yeah, he goes
think would've-
lizard snail, which I mean is fine. I think Doofus should hold here though with this Seraphim. It's just insane on wave 3.
Yeah, it's crazy DPS, and with the wild room. He did drag.
Perfectly off tanking the split as well. It's just going to clean up.
Oof.
Really nice
Very
positioning there from Doofus. Very solid. And this is what I mean. Like the guy just seems to have really upped his game lately. Like you see the way he wrapped the split round with the Polywog onto the Seraphim. Just perfect aggro here.
Yeah, really actually thinking about what's gonna happen when the wave comes to this lane. And you can see really aggressive pushes from everybody. 7 workers apiece besides Toho, who's obviously playing a little safer with his Pyro. There's no need, I think, for him to play this safe.
Well,
considering
he hasn't really got any good answers for wave 4 is the thing. So like if he had Aqua, for example, he could just drop a single Aqua and push a worker.
Yeah, I haven't done any testing on the new Pyro, but I've seen some crazy pushes because you don't have to respect 4 as much now with the chain.
I mean, now he's got this Chain Fist, which isn't tanking anything. So he might as well just have added nothing, right? Like, the Chain Fist did 200 damage. So it might as well not have been there. And the Pyro probably cleans up anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. And Shadow has a bit of Mythium here.
He does.
Targeting the
and here
Avengers.
it comes. So he's going for a Dino. And what did he spend his 60 on? He's going to save. I guess he can go for a Brute or a Fiend post-income.
I think Shadow just wanted the gold to build a Sky Queen here. And you can see he's perfectly calculating his math.
I would like to see him send his 60 here, though. I think either the Fiend or the Brute is fine. We can see that L1 doesn't have Butcher in his role, so he's not completely invincible here.
Yep.
Shadow saves. Okay. I think he's probably going to kick himself for that when he sees L1's build. Because a full send, I'm pretty confident, would leak him decently here.
I think L1 got some Grain Spirit aggro here, where the boss somehow went right.
Yeah.
Even with his correct positioning.
How did the boss go right?
That's a mystery.
That is
we'll
a
have to
mystery.
solve. It still
Shadow
looks alright.
definitely kicking himself here for not full sending. An extra 60 would have made this leak massive, I think.
Yeah, it would have completely ruined it. Like, the Fiend would be very hard to kill for the Adventure and the Gate Guard. And now it's actually Toho who has a lot of Mythium. Maybe targeting a send together on
that looks
8,
like
perhaps?
It could be wave 7, it could be wave 8. Because Toho's definitely getting Mimic in income if he wants to send that on 7. But like you say, wave 8 just looks so juicy against both of these players. Like, how do Doofus and L1 ever hold a big wave 8 send?
Looking at their roles, there's really not much. L1 has the Disciple for some damage and the Gargs for some frontline, but Doofus really doesn't have anything. He's got a Fire Lord he could use, perhaps, but those aren't direct answers, you would say.
Yeah. I think Doofus's best bet is probably something like a Daphne. And when a single Daphne is your best hope for wave 8, that's not much of a hope at all.
Toho going for a bit of a bigger leak than he wanted. Probably.
Yeah, I think he was quite happy with a pro leak here, but 4 creeps is probably 2 or 3 more than he would have liked to pro leak.
Plus side is L1 and Doofus are forced to keep incoming.
They do save though, so Toho will definitely be able to get his Ghost Knight pre-income for wave 8. And like we say, Doofus just has no chance of holding there. He does add a Daphne here, like we say,
It's
so that
something?
is something, yeah. That gives him some Ghost Knight potential.
Fair enough. I will say, though, the Ghost Knight will probably still be the best send, just for how long it will take.
Yeah. And Shadow's going to get one as well.
That is going to be rough for a Harbinger Avenger board to deal with.
Well, L1 at least has the Disciple, right? Which is one of the best units against a Ghost Knight.
That's fair.
So he has got a hidden answer. He didn't show it here, which is good. There it is. There's the ghosty boy.
First Ghost Knight. There's going to be even a bit
really
of a leak
pro-leaking
here.
Yeah, 36%
That's a
perfect. Really, really good for him. Give them an extra, like, 20 seconds worth of Mythium. All in respect. Doofus with the old chat. Alright. So, L1. Over 1,000 value, minus 120. Doofus over 1,000 value, minus 120. He does get the second Daphne. So this is at least some anti-Ghost Knight potential. I'd probably spam Polywogs at this point because, I mean, you've got 50 gold and you know that this end is coming here.
He goes for the upper split as well,
That's
which
good.
should help with his Violet and his Canopy.
Yeah, so he's going to kill a couple of creeps on the left before the Ghost Knight wraps around. Is he going to kill it, though, because his tank's now all dead, the Ghost Knight's still alive? I think he might not be able to kill it, and meanwhile, on L1's side, he doesn't kill it either. These are massive.
No.
2 130% home runs from Doofus and L1. Wow.
That is really tough.
Yeah. So Toho and Shadow, it was a bit of an all-in play, but it's definitely paid off for them here.
Yeah, they definitely got a great spot in the game now, because even while they were starving, they were able to keep their push.
Yeah.
Which really snowballs their income.
And just look at that as well. 60% damage done to the king. Jules is calling it 61% in favor in the win chance. Things are looking rough now for Doofus and L1. Right.
Gives Shadow and Toho the opportunity to look for the wave they want to go for a kill on.
Yeah.
But Doofus and L1 making the correct choice to save.
I guess
they need to have some pressure.
Yeah, the one saving grace for Doofus and L1 is that Toho is pretty behind in the game. Like, he starved himself super hard. He's got very low income. He's got very low value. He's leaked a lot of waves. So there is still a bit of hope for Doofus and L1. It's just going to be hard for them to get back into the game.
Yeah, if we look at potential weak waves, it's maybe 11, but even then they have a good amount of fortified.
Yeah.
So it's tough to find the right send. You'd probably say 13 would be Shadow and Toho's weak wave right now, but it's tough to get there because of how weak L1 is on 12.
Yeah, L1's super weak on 12, and Doofus is not much better if we're honest.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Toho, very good on 12. Shadow, very good on 12. So I guess they kind of have to go 11 and hope to get something done.
Yeah, something small to note is you probably don't want to go for the second Leviathan. It's really not as much value as adding planes around the first.
Yeah.
Especially when you're not double buffing a strong unit.
With no send here, though, it looks like it's just enough, even though Toho's super low value.
Yep, able to hold cleanly. And the thing to note is, right, so even these sends, they're just not, they're not enough. You know, their push was limited by the leak on 8, and this income just gives up their pressure.
And look at this, by the way, L1 actually picks up the embargo here. I think that's really risky. And as soon as they see no Mythium sent here from Toho and Shadow, I think L1 might kick himself for picking embargo here, because now he can't react to the Wave 12 send at all. He won't be able to income send, he won't be able to upgrade the king.
Yeah, it's tough. It looks like they were gambling for a 11 send from Shadow and Toho, but it's not going to come.
Nope. Alright, and with this income send here as well into Shadow and Toho, they just have no pressure on them at all. So don't be surprised if we see Toho and Shadow just go for a massive push now into a big 12 send.
Yeah, there's absolutely no worry. Their builds are insane on 12, and they're getting the send, so...
I mean, Toho is holding wave 12 with the units he has already. Same with Shadow, honestly.
Yep, they can really push hard.
There we go. Shadow fully pushed into workers.
The classic send.
Yeah, pack leader imps. Slightly nerfed this patch though, right? Because the imp now has... It's a bit more base damage, a bit slower attack speed, so it's like the same by itself, but weaker with pack leader.
Yeah, it's not quite the same beast, but I will say it still gets the job done.
It's still going to be enough. Like, Doofus... L1 is kind of desperately throwing down Harbingers here just to have more fortified HP on the board. But he basically has one source of damage this wave.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. We'll see. Doofus is on reasonable value with Hero.
I'm kind of surprised that Doofus didn't upgrade the King here, though. They must have known the send was coming here. They must have known.
The only reason, I guess, would be if they suspected a even longer save to 14 or something, but
maybe
12 looked like the correct spot.
Yeah, but these guys are dead here, right?
Yeah, this is probably just too much.
Yeah.
It's about, what, 10 creeps and a couple imps and some packs?
They might have been able to survive this without the embargo. Like, if the players had been able to income and king for wave 12, I think they survived, but like this, it's GG. Shadowho taking game number 1.
Well played.
Victory.
Very well played, those guys. And if we just have a quick flick through the waves, like, it was kind of clinical from Shadowho.
Yeah, very well played from them.
The Doofus got the start he wanted with the Windhawk Fiesta, but then he's getting starved, right? So he can no longer really afford to go for risky Fiesta builds. So he holds 2, he holds 3, he holds 4, 5, 6, 7, and then he gets the 130% leak on 8. So really completely denying Fiesta value from Doofus with this kind of play. Like, he only got a single Fiesta leak on wave 1.
Yeah, something I would like to see in the next game is a little more saving, a little more skipping from Doofus and L1, because even though it's something...
Wave, right?
Yeah, even though it's something like Pyro, which is, holding very well early game, you can still limit their push and gives your teammate a little bit more breathing room by just skipping a wave, income kinging, skipping a wave, like sending a little bit, never sending full, just trying to mind game their push. And another thing I would like to see is with the Fiesta, saving on 1 would be a lot stronger than sending, just because some builds are going to crumble or not be able to push to that 40 or even 60 sends on 2.
I think Shadow probably would have really struggled with a 40 or a 60 on 2 as well. Like, the Wanderer is really weak there, and sure, he's got 1 Harpy, but that's it, right? That's his main source of damage, so maybe a double snail would have been able to get him there. Yeah. But pretty nicely played there from Shadow and Toho. Like, the wave 8 send was just completely devastating for those guys.
Yeah,
Doofus and
really
L1,
good call.
Even though they added their best possible units there. Like L1 with his Disciple, Doofus with his double Daphne, and still neither one of them killed the Ghost Knight.
You could say perhaps the mistake was to go for the Harbinger when you're already invested in the Avenger early, because it does make you so weak on 8. But it's also hard to say, considering he only got that Dino on 5. He could have been a little bit nervous about the 7 send as well.
Yeah, and Doofus was pretty vulnerable on 7 as well. Like, Toho easily could have sent Mimic Plus on 7, and Doofus is leaking to that, so maybe L1 thinks he needs to be able to try and cover there.
Right, it's always a risk with, you can assume that someone, when they long save, will want to go for your weakest wave, but they can also then mix it up to try and catch you shifting or building or pre-building for the next wave.
Yeah. A really solid play, so super aggressive early play there from Toho and Shadow. Mega leaks on 8, closing it out on 12.
Yeah, and another thing to note is the cartel, when you end the game that early, has no downsides.
Yeah, true. So it's all upside for Shadow there. He's got his +9 for the first 10 waves, and then the game's over on 12. So, like,
Yeah.
who cares about the downside to Cartel? It's a really good shout.
There's almost two ways or two thoughts to playing Cartel. One is, you're snowballing your early game so hard with your worker lead that you're in your income lead
Yep.
that even that penalty after 10 doesn't affect you and you're still ahead. Or you just end the game early, right? And get advantage from all that gold you had extra.
Yeah, and Shadow clearly subscribing to the latter this time around.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if any of the guys decide to mix up their mastermind options this time around. I don't think Doofus should go Fiesta twice in a row. It kind of makes you a little predictable. And Fiesta probably the worst of the options to be predictable with, because, they can just snail you on one and then go for a long starve, like exactly how they played it in game one.
Yeah, there's some mind games, of course, like building stuff like, Gate Guard or something with Fiesta to try and like pre-game a snail, but it's a bit too big of a risk, I think.
Oh, it's definitely risky. But they could just swap roles as well. Like L1 used to be a Fiesta main. I could even see Shadow going for a Fiesta this time around. Just call their bluff.
Yeah, that would be exciting.
All right, ladies and gents.
But there is a sending order mix up this for game 2 as well.
Yeah, so Doofus has decided that he wants to punish himself this time around. He's feeling a little bit masochistic, so he's going to receive Shadow Sends.
Oh, interesting. Another 3 different masterminds so far.
Ooh. And there is a castle on L1. So Doofus, he's not scared. He is going for the Fiesta again. He's got a couple of solid options for it as well. You can Fiesta quite nicely with Neko and Atom, both.
Oh, there we go. 4 different options again.
Yeah. So this time Toho's on the cash out. Shadow's still on the Cartel, so he obviously liked it last time around. He's going for the same again this time.
So Doofus has some potential Fiesta openers with Adam, Cats, even the Bucklers, although that one is slightly worse on 2.
Yeah.
And L1 has some pretty safe stuff with Castle, with the Adams and the Steeds. You can play a pretty chill
He's
early
got a
game.
really nice role. Like, L1 has a very nice late game role. It's just going to be a question of whether Shadow and Toho let them get there, right?
Yep, that's for sure. Okay, Shadow opting for the Daphne start, and Toho going
Toho with a gun start. Yeah. Pretty standard stuff. Doofus is going for a Berserker with his Fiesta. Huh.
I suppose you would leak.
He just really wants them to not think his Fiesta. But look, this time Shadow and Toho go for the snails.
that is a bit of a mind game there.
Yeah.
So, winning that so far, getting the little extra gold. Although I think with Fiesta and the 0 income, he won't be able to get 5 workers anyways.
No, he won't be able to. No. Which is a bit of a shame.
But another thing to note is with cash out and gun or any 190 opener, you're on 5 workers very early, which is always nice.
You don't even need to send for it, right? So he did this time, but you don't need to. You can go for that 5 worker pressure with like a big opener.
I think Shadow pinging to hold the Pee-wee spots.
Obviously, he doesn't need to build them here, so he's just telling him where to build them for wave 3. So winning the mind game for Doofus and L1. And presumably, Shadow and Toho have not been able to read that Doofus is on Fiesta, because why would anyone in their right mind start Berserker with Fiesta?
That is a bit of an unusual choice, but we'll see how he likes to play it. Maybe he'll push aggressively, but I don't see him going to 6 workers here. I don't think he'd be able to build much at all.
No. He wouldn't be able to build anything.
A cat, a stack.
He might be hoping to leak here. So I don't think Shadow gets the snail. He doesn't, so that should be a hold there for Doofus.
Yep. And it should be holds all around. Presumably L1 will actually build. I will say I prefer the quote-unquote like God Atom, which will be a square lower than that.
Yeah, the
To
one
get
that
like perfect aggro.
the one that tanks a single creep on 6 and kills it, and then cleans up everything
Yeah.
on the left. Yeah, that's a juicy
Really
item.
lets you get a little bit more aggressive with your push, but
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with just keeping your split even.
Oh, and actually,
Oh.
Doofus, he didn't manage to split any aggro on his Berserker, so that thing just got completely run down. Maybe he's getting his Fiesta here after all. Though 47% to a single lizard is probably a bit more of a leak than you would have liked.
Yeah, it's not ideal. You see relatively safe pushes from Shadow and Toho, not overextending to 7. Although, I will say going 7 workers to 1 snail might be something only a few players would do.
Yeah. Alright, so the double lizard resend here from Shadow and Toho. Doofus did add some stacks on his cat, so I think he should be completely fine here. I'm interested whether Shadow will send the snail or not.
Yeah, it might make a small difference. And generally when you're sending versus Fiesta, you do want to try and leak them, but I guess he doesn't know that it's Fiesta. The aggro here is a little bit better this time, and it is the
much
Berserk
better,
on
yeah.
4 now.
Yeah, this is kind of perfect split tanking now from Doofus, so this should be a pretty easy hold for him.
Yeah, I'd like to see him maybe try and push a little more aggressively now.
Yeah.
And go for some more Fiesta value.
He's
on the
actually not
next
pushing
wave.
at all, though. He's playing 6 workers here.
Yeah, it looks like he's going for a really long save. Perhaps just targeting Toho on 6 or 7.
Yeah. So we see Toho with a Mudman here. He's very high value, 500 value on 6. I
Yeah,
wonder
that
if he's
is...
going to harden.
I would say you don't generally want to harden with gun on 5, just because then you're completely dead on 6.
And he doesn't. So he holds his nerve, he's completely fine. But that's going to be really difficult for Doofus to break on 6. Even though I'm pretty sure Toho won't be able to afford a Violet, he's just going to have so much value.
Yeah, the hardened unman especially, because you almost never are going to send 7 into the gun builds. But I mean, against Toho's gun build, it's reasonable actually, considering he has the natural tanks, and maybe he will go for that harden.
Yeah.
But
Toho drops the Graal. That makes things difficult because obviously, like, it's so hard. He can't shift for the Vulcan cannon while he's being starved like this. But with the Graal, well, you don't need to shift anymore.
Yeah, gives him that flexibility, and we can see that L1 is also building up quite a bit of Mythium now too.
Yeah, it seems like the roles have been reversed this time around. So Doofus and L1, you know, they're giving these guys a taste of their own medicine. They didn't like the long starve so much in the previous game, so they're deciding, well, now it's our turn to be tryhards.
And you can see what I said earlier about this Atom for L1. He upgraded it, the one in the split, and it's getting run over by 3 Rockas.
Yeah.
So generally, if you do that Atom, you probably want to just keep it as a little small guy. But we see the Sems coming out, and interesting to notice that Toho and Shadow are keeping their Mythium.
And they might be expecting an 8 send, which
Yeah,
could
especially...
very well backfire. Yeah, he doesn't sell his Graal. And actually,
And no hardens.
Toho was 2 gold short of being able to sell the Graal for a Millennium, by the way.
That would certainly have helped him here. He does harden, so they do have the read.
Been super strong here, like really, really good for him. But yeah, he needed to send for that.
Let's see how they do. It's
Both
decent
players
sized
did harden,
Sems.
so they did go for the last second harden there.
Yeah, hedging their bets a little bit.
Well, they're doing really well actually. So there is a leak, but it's only 52%. Very small leak there for Toho.
Look at Shadow.
And Shadow's doing even better. He's killing everything but the pack leader.
Wow, that is really impressive.
That's really impressive, and actually really bad for Doofus and L1. Because this was kind of their all-in play, and it's just not getting the damage done that they need it to.
Yeah, and Shadow and Toho holding their nerve with the Smithium. Now they have all the pressure
Yeah.
and can
They're
perhaps
just firmly in control
go
of the
for a
game
big
now.
lead now. Yeah.
They can literally do whatever they want at this point. So they don't even send here. It looks like they're going to go for a massive wave 9 send.
Yeah, all these literally not a single unit on any of their on either board is good on 9.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a tough, and we can see their rolls aren't
We
holding
just
much
don't have
better.
anything.
There's a
Doofus and Elwon just
butcher,
don't have
but
anything, yeah. He just can't. He is shifting some gold here, so I guess they've read the wave 9 send at least.
yeah,
But these snail sends are they're just not it.
yeah, like you probably don't want to go full even if they're dehardened, because if you
Yeah.
do leak them, you're still gonna get a huge.
You're just
send.
making it worse for yourself, yeah. They should probably have just gone for some king upgrades here.
Yeah.
And Shadow will leak, but it's a very small leak. Like he's really happy with this pro leak, and Toho's holding and covering in the mid. So it's 33% leak for Shadow, giving them a really long wave and getting 0 king damage done.
You can see that the low worker counts are really coming back to bite them now.
And here come the sins. We've got double ogres from Shadow and Toho. There's a little brute to join in the party. And Doofus and Elwon, like, how? Like, what can they do here? We've got
like
Flower
this
from
flower
Doofus,
is not
but
going to
it's
save them.
not going to do anything.
He does delete the split for what it's worth.
Yeah, but that's one flower.
Yeah.
You know? Wow. I mean, Elwon gets his Avenger, but that's one Avenger against the entire wave. The rest of his units are super weak on this wave.
Everything is going to get melted by this ogre.
They don't even king upgrade on Doofus and L1.
Interesting.
They couldn't have done many, but like surely they knew this end was coming here looking at their builds.
Yeah, a few attack helps a lot, even with something like the if you have 0 king attack and the ogre is hitting your king, it's gonna do so much.
It's pretty
damage.
scary.
And I think we're about to find out what that looks like as both ogres are going through.
There's 85 on Doofus, 68 on L1, and this is going to be a ton of king damage here. They're definitely going to wish they had those extra, like, 5 or 6 king attacks here.
And the thing is, even with their Mythium save, they're really not going to come out ahead because they're still so behind on workers.
Yeah.
Yeah, geez, 60%.
Wow.
King.
Shadow and Toho putting on a bit of a clinic here today. So I thought the match was going to be pretty close. But actually, Shadow and Toho just seem clean. Like, very clean gameplay.
No mistakes, good, like, I guess skips, you know, like when you have pressure against you, but you still are able to hold your nerve.
Yeah.
It's really impressive stuff.
So L1's castle is going to kick in next wave, which I guess is something.
That is true.
I just don't know that it's much of something, you know?
Yeah, there's also the threat of AoA, which we haven't even thought about, but it could really hurt L1 and Doofus considering they're low king and already weak for 11.
There is Glacial Touch in the game, which I would expect them to pick up on.
Shadow going for the AoA.
Yeah, but
We'll
L1
see
and Doofus
the
both have
glacials.
Glacial Touch, right? Which is very, very strong on 12. Very strong. It has been nerfed, but I think it's incredibly strong on 12.
I wonder if they'll go post-income here. It would completely wreck them, the way it looks right now.
Yeah.
But they can't know it for sure, so they'll hold their nerve. We do see a Harden here.
It doesn't matter. Like, Toho's just an absolute god on 12.
Yeah, it's fair. You'd probably want 13 against Shadow and Toho the way it looks right now.
Yeah, he can safely harden here. Because he's a literal god. And Shadow is also incredible on 12. I guess Shadow and Toho are sending 12 by the way that they're pretty low value and taking the all-out assault. They do, but I think Doofus and L1 actually have a decent chance on 12. They both have
Yeah,
the Glacial.
there are odds.
Glacial is
Yes.
extremely strong on 12. I'm kind of
Mhm.
interested to see what happens here. And Doofus and L1, they're not making the same mistake they did last game. They are going for income here. I'd love to
Yep.
see them get a couple of king upgrades post as well.
And Doofus does have a death cap as well, which is quite strong, especially with the Glacial. That amount of AoE can really
Yeah.
melt the wave.
Yeah, Glacial on his Disciple is really good.
L1 has the Trinity, which is a pretty good DPS source. He's lacking some tanks, and this Centaur that's headed his way is gonna be pretty good against the Steed army.
Yeah, it's not bad. This is 380 here on Doofus, 360 on L1. L1's value is decent. Obviously, he's got the Sovereign, which is kind of weak on 12, but with the Glacial Touch, that thing is putting out some serious damage.
Yeah.
And look at this, he's killing everything pretty much apart from the Centaur. And on Doofus's lane, the same.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very nice.
He leaks the Sens. L1 leaks like a Centaur and 2 creeps. I think this is about as good as they could possibly have hoped for.
Yeah, it was a good call from them.
Game.
Income King is paying off now.
Yeah.
The Centaur does do quite a bit, but surviving is definitely the first step towards winning.
Well, they're alive, right? And just look at this damage output. The Disciple, 10,000 damage here with that Glacial AoE.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, honestly.
It's actually insane. He's done like 2.5 times the damage of the death cap on wave 12.
It's absolutely absurd. So
It
really
actually-
great choice.
It actually really helps that Doofus is playing an AoE build as well, because he doesn't have splits, right? And the Glacial Touch is a pure AoE ability. So having all of his enemies clumped up for the death caps is also a massive benefit for his Glacial Disciple.
There are some gigantic shifts going on here.
Yeah,
400
Balls of
gold,
Steel from
200
Shadow and
gold.
Toho. I wonder what we're going to see next. Is it going to be a 14 from anybody, or does it... Probably would expect to see everybody going 15, to be honest.
Yeah, it smells like a longer save just because no one has pushed.
Yeah. This is a very starved game. The highest working count is 12 on Doofus. He gets his Fiesta gold here, though.
Yeah, fair enough.
He went into wave 13 with 1800 value. That's interesting. Maybe trying to bait the 14 send out of Shadow and Toho.
Yeah, like faking an all-in, but I don't think anyone's gonna bite on that.
Didn't, oh. On the flip side, if we take a quick look at the incomes, we see Shadow 50 income behind L1, right? So Shadow with the downside to Cartel and the all-out assault, losing a ton of income, but that just goes to show how their early game was so much better because it's only a 50 income gap. Like Shadow loses 37 from Cartel, he loses 20 from all-out, and L1 gains 44, I think, from Castle.
So we see the Harden here. I think there's no need considering his value and his units.
It has to be a 15 cent. It has to be a 15 cent from everybody. Look at Doofus's value, by the way. 2.3k here. He should get his Hades out, though. Which might be pretty clutch.
Hades can pop off on 15. The only worrying fact is he has like
really
the guard
much tank
spam,
value.
but it's really... Oh my god, okay, there's gonna be a skip from Toho?
I guess he's going for like a post-income...
Centaur,
Centaur. I didn't see that one coming. I could see like he saves for a Shaman or something.
I guess he's trying to counter the Steed spam, which is gonna be a big part of L1's build, but...
And it's also really tanky against the Sovereign, right?
Yeah, the Archer and the Sovereign aren't gonna melt it for sure.
Alright, this is...
see the Hades, we see the Garg spam. This is probably the best Doofus can do.
I think someone's winning here, I just don't know who it is. So the bigger sends... Oh wow, they added some King Ups in with their full sends here.
Yeah,
That's questionable.
For sure don't like the regen because
Yeah, it's not doing
This game
anything.
is very likely ending here, so
Yeah.
popping that regen maybe after the send would have been good, but there's just no tanks here. The
Yeah.
Centaur shredded all the Gargs.
Oh, look at this though. L1 nearly able to hold, but not quite. Shadow
Ooh,
does leak, but Toho
but
holding the longest here, which means
absolute god gamer.
absolute god gamer, and that's just GG now.
Yeah.
So Shadow and Toho take this one 2-0.
A bit of a closer affair in the second, but it still felt like they had all the control throughout the game.
Yeah. I mean, the graph shows that Shadow and Toho were in the lead pretty much the entire way through the game.
Mhm.
And if we just flick through some of the waves, we can really see what happened here. So wave 3, Doofus leaks a bit too much. Like, he's happy to Fiesta, but he probably wants to kill quite a few more creeps by getting some split aggro. His Berserker just took 100% of focus there and died way too fast.
And that no push from Doofus on after 4 really ended up hurting him because he never got a send until 9.
Yeah, so he stayed 6 workers from wave 3 all the way to wave 9. That's really crushing on him. And this wave 7 send from Doofus and L1, I really think was just a bit of a throw.
Yeah.
Because Toho and Shadow, they both practically hold. Like, we've got very small leaks on both of them, and that just gives them a free game. Like, if they skip there, Doofus and L1, I don't think Shadow and Toho can afford to skip wave 8. I think they're then forced into sending 8, where Doofus and L1 are way, way stronger than they are on 9. So I think Doofus and L1 probably need to protect themselves on wave 9 by not giving up pressure on 7.
Yeah. That would have been a better call this game for sure.
Yeah.
And it's something that I feel like gets exposed more in tournaments, is protecting your weak waves more and thinking about not just how to, leak your enemies, but how do you prevent and make the game really annoying for your enemies to send against you.
Yeah, you want to be the one who's in charge of the pace of the game, right? So Shadow and Toho both times have been in charge of the pace of the game. So they've been able to drive their opponents into ideally sending on the wave where Shadow and Toho are strong, like we just saw on 15 at the end there. But also they've been able to kind of save past the waves that L1 and Doofus have decided to send on, and then go for the kill like we saw here on wave 9. Nearly like one-shotting them, by the way, bringing them all the way down to 38% HP with those ogres just railing away on the king.
Yeah, and it's just really small stuff too, that all these sorts of like very small decisions to, like save a little bit extra, like not income when you don't necessarily need it. Like maybe you'll leak, but your mate will cover you. That sort of thing. Like just holding your nerve a little bit matters so much more in tournament when people are going for, big coordinated sends together a lot of the time.
Yeah, definitely. I also really don't like these king ups on 15 from Doofus and L1.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a misread, right?
You gotta go for the kill. Like, I don't know that it makes a difference because Toho was just holding for so long, and like a single brute probably doesn't make that much difference. But you've got to try.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Shadow and Toho, pretty clean 2-0 from those guys. A shame for Doofus and L1. I felt like this was the Nova Cup where they had the best chance to make it through to the next round. But unfortunate, and they at least played pretty well in game 2. That one felt pretty close. But yeah, congrats Shadow and Toho. They are now through to round 2, where I believe they have to play against Kingdans and Widdowson, so that's going to be a bit of a tough game for those guys.
That's always a tough matchup.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I wonder if we've got any games still going on. I think we have. I think Burnt and Green are still in game. Let me just check that those guys are still in a game and we can spectate. Do you have your spectate rights, by the way?
I do not have spectator.
Try and sort that real quick while I check if Burnt is in game. Alright, so Burnt and Green are still in game, so we will spectate them. I will just sort your rights out on the other screen. While I do that, I will just start the spectate so that the stream can see some action while I do some admin in the background.
Sounds lovely.
Well, the admin tool is not working. Let me just stick the game on there. Alright, yeah, the admin tool is just throwing up an error, so I can't give you spectate rights. It's a bit of a shame. I can try and ping Danny quickly, but meanwhile maybe I can share my screen in here. If it starts to skip frames on the stream though, I'll probably have to end the Discord.
Sure.
Alright, so I'm sharing my screen now. If it starts to affect the main stream, I'll just have to turn that off, but you should be able to hop into the next lobby normally anyway. Alright, so it looks like Burnt and Green are pretty ahead. At least they're both on fire. 50 gold shutdowns on the pair of them. Here's a pretty big 13 send coming out from everybody though. So there's still 400 Mythium in all 4 lanes pretty much. Is anybody able to hold this one?
It doesn't look like the
That's a big old leak on Kiss and Love. 128%. And ZW Hydra, I think, is not doing much better, so this should just be game here.
Shut down.
And Burnt's letting me know that he hasn't even used Hero. So he's picked it and it's wave 13. He still hasn't placed the Hero. So that's just
that is
showing
certainly one way to flex a little bit.
And yeah, this looks like GG here. So Burnt and Green, they take this game. I assume this was game 2.
I think so.
You can have a quick flick through some of the waves. It's just snails all around. They're kind of income sending. They're getting big leaks on wave 4 with that dino send. They're holding big sends themselves on 5. Yeah, it looks like Burnt and Green just are pretty comfortably in the lead on this one. Even holding, or nearly holding, a mole on 8 by Burnt, which I'm pretty sure is impossible, so he's maybe using some kind of hacks to do that.
Maybe he uses Hero Aura on 8. Was able to get it out. Didn't need it for later.
Alright. And then we got the kill send there on 13. And that was a 2-0. I've got confirmation there from Burnt. So I think that is everybody done in round 1. We'll probably take a quick 5-minute break now before we hop into round 2. So let me just pop schedule screen up for you guys in Twitch chat, and I'll just say that we will be back here in around 5 minutes for round number 2. So the casters are going to take a quick break, top up the water, refresh the vocal cords, and we'll be right back with you in a couple of minutes, so don't go anywhere. Alright, guys, I am back. Let me flip over to the caster cameras. Mr. Ofma is here as well, ready. He was back
Hello.
before me. Very well organised, very well organised. Impressive stuff. So the match that we've got next is one that's a bit special for me because it's got both of the anchors that I need to try and carry on the ladder playing on the same team. So it is
Of course.
WWS8LPPD is Burnt Das Brot and Green Spirit, and they are playing against the safe players, which is Drakir and Mr. Slickens. It's going to be a pretty interesting matchup, I think.
Yeah, Mr. Slickens filling in for Lucy, who is MIA, but Drakir and Slickens, of course, have some experience playing together.
They do. So Drakir and Slickens, they played the first couple of Nova Cups together, I think. I think they were also playing some of the old, like, Devilfish Cups way back in December last year. So they've got a decent amount of experience together, and both players are just playing super, super well lately as well. So they're both inside the top 10. Drakir can quite often be seen in the #1 spot, and meanwhile, Burnt and Green actually pretty far down the ladder at the moment.
They're taking a quick trip, down a little vacation, but
Yeah.
it's usually a normal sight to see Burnt Das Brot in their top 10.
I mean, only when I've boosted him to get there, though, right?
I mean, naturally.
Yeah. Because other than that, he's just an absolute player. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how Burnt and Green are going to perform when I'm not there to carry them. I'm not sure, because I don't know if you guys know this, but they actually can't tie their own shoelaces if I'm not there to do it for them. So I think it might be a bit of a rough one for those guys. I think Drakir and Slickens have got this.
Yeah, they are quite capable. I've actually seen evidence of them tying their own shoes. So.
Drakir, well-known guy who can tie his shoelaces, though I'm pretty sure Slickens uses Velcro.
It is a little more slick that way. And I've played the duo myself with Drakir and Slickens a lot, and they're both very capable players. Slickens a little more leaning towards the, high income aggressive pushing style. And Drakir a little more measured, a little safer.
But... Measured is a good way to describe it, yeah. I think Drakir is very... he's just very logical the way that he plays, right? Like, we were talking in the previous game about protecting your weak waves, going for the kind of undercut plays, putting that pressure on, like, the wave before you're weak so that the enemy can't afford to save past it. And Drakir is all about that life. Like, Drakir is very, very clever, very smart in the way that he plays, and I think he will just read the flow of the game pretty well. So I expect to see, like, if Drakir and Slickens have a shared weak wave, they're going to pile on pressure 3 or 4 waves in advance and go for a big send the wave before that happens. So Burnt and Green can't just have the game the way they want to play it. But either way, I actually think this is going to be a pretty close matchup. I do want Drakir and Slickens to win, just because that will amuse me.
Naturally.
But this one could definitely go either way.
Yeah, I mean, Julian and Green notably defeated X-Crash, one of the strongest teams last Nova Cup. So
yeah, and I
they
think
certainly got the skill.
I think they damn near won against Abrasiet as well. I think that was a very close 2-1 series in the previous cup. But guys, we don't need to speculate anymore, because without further ado, here's game #1. So we have the safe players on the left-hand side, that's Drakir and Slickens, and they are faced up against WWS8LPPD, that is Burnt Das Brot, and Green Spirit on the right-hand side. We do have 3 Greed players this time around, so pretty depressing sight after we had the incredible 4 completely varied mastermind options in the first series. Although we do at least have Burnt playing YOLO, so one of these 4 players has a set of balls, which is interesting.
Yeah, not the one you would expect, but
Yes. Kind of surprised to see Slickens not taking Cartel, honestly. Like, he's been playing a bit of a Cartel 1 trick on the ladder lately.
Yeah, think he might be a little worried about getting some long saves from Julian,
Yeah.
but
Julian with the
he
consort
does.
opener, by the way. So this will be a long wave. Expect Burnt and Green to save their Mythium because of this.
I will say Slickens had a roll that I thought he might just go for the Pyro Rogue Wave, which is one of his favorites, but he's going with the Elite Archer and a Chain, which is one of the strongest openers, especially with Orchid.
Yeah, the Orchid there is just amazing. Like, because you're pretty weak on 5 and 6 with this start, unless you can get that Orchid out.
Mhm.
And Orchid obviously just gives you free hold on both 5 and 6. So really, really nice roll there for Slickens.
Yep. And then the other lanes we have 2 flowers, one from Drakir, one from Green. Really safe opener relatively in the start, and has some weaknesses later if you're committing to AoE, but really high push and fairly flexible.
And Burnt is playing the Sky Queens, by the way. So deciding to build right at the very front of the lane tells me that he's actually committed to keeping the Sky Queen in his build, right?
Yeah, that's not what I thought he would have gone for with the Steed and Halo, but Harpy has gotten some buffs. It's quite it's not as bad as it used to be, but
not as bad
still
as it
not
used to be.
favored.
That's some glowing praise there for the Sky Queen. It's not as bad as it used to be.
So we see Slickens going for 5 workers anyways.
Yeah.
Saying he doesn't really care.
Green Spirit is trying to bait the caster, it seems.
Of course, naturally.
He's question marking his lane, just crying out for attention there. Look at me, Senpai.
Nice.
Notice me. Alright, with the 20 resend there, Burnt should be fine. Speed, although very weak on 2, is at least tanking some damage from his consort. Slickens does get a 40% leak there, which is actually fine. Drakir, of course, covers with his flower. But Green Spirit now, 7 workers, starting to pull ahead.
Yeah, the Flower Aqua combo is pretty ridiculous. Very safe that you can go 7 workers and still be fine on 4 and 5.
Yeah. Now Burnt with 120 gold probably has to add... Actually adding a Harpy, really? I don't know, dude.
He is overvalued, so if I had a bet, he'd be fine.
Oh, he's definitely fine here. I just mean like it's kind of weakening his
Oh,
build
I
in the
see.
long run, right?
Yes. Yeah, fair enough. It's a commitment. I wonder if he'll try and actually get the Sky Queen out.
Do you know what? Something that is interesting, right, is he could get a Sky Queen to carry him through waves like 7, 8, and 10, and then sacrifice it in the late game for a big Halo. Because one of the best combos in the game is Mass Steed with a single Arc of Justice. Like, the damage that thing does is obscene.
Yep, indeed. That's actually a really good shout, and it would give him a lot more late game potential that way. We see a lot of income. Green is the only one holding on to his Mythium.
Green getting
doesn't
the
need a
Fire
send.
Elemental here. Yeah, he didn't need the income to get the Fire Ellie, so he kept hold of it, which I think is a good call from him. He's going to have an easy hold here from the income send of Slickens, and at the same time he'll be able to push hard workers and put a ton of pressure on top of Drakir.
Yep. Everyone on 7 workers, so this is a different early game than the ones we've seen before.
Yeah, this game is really high tempo, it feels like.
Yep. Those aggressive openers and that early leaks, it's surely going to snowball the game a little bit.
Yeah. Alright, easy hold there from Green Spirit, who's now on 8 workers. Doesn't go for 9, though. Slickens making 42% against Snails, though. This is really good for Burnt and Green, because Green is piling on that pressure. He actually gets the imps out against Drakir. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised that he decided to go here on 5.
Yeah. There's potential for a 6 or a 7.
This is
even.
exactly what I expected to see. I'm kind of surprised he doesn't put it in front of the flower, honestly, because the Green Devil plus Sea Dragon heal is just an insane amount of HP. And if he has his Green Devil like here, then it's going to split tank with the flower as well. But like this, it's not going to tank until the flower dies, I don't think.
maybe just trying to value the single target DPS of the Green Devil higher, but
Look how fast
tanking for the
Flower
flash
dies now,
would be
though.
nice.
So this is what we call the Pog Atom, where it just stays alive forever, getting unlimited DPS. And yeah, this is what I was worried about. We saw that Drakir had a ton of magic damage already on the field. Now, of course, Green Spirit doesn't know about the Green Devil, so you can't fault him for that. But I just think if he decided to save for 6 or 7, Drakir would have been in so much trouble.
For sure.
Alright, so
And he
that's
still has
easy
the
hold
option,
there.
but
Easy hold from Drakir, though. He's now on 9 workers, so he's in the lead. He's in a really comfortable position.
yeah, and they may be targeting a classic mole on 8 send against green, perhaps, and
Green looks pretty worried about a mole on 8. Now, he does have Disciple, and I would expect him to not do what we saw in the first series with Doofus and L1, where he basically builds for 6 and 7 and then dies on 8. I expect Green to drop 1 Disciple on 7, second one on 8, and have that real like single target burst damage to get through them all.
yeah, for sure.
So Rakir obviously easily holding here.
Slicken's getting a
Slicken's?
little bit of income.
Slicken's leaking to the double turtle send? I think he is. Oh, but Drakir actually goes for an income send here. A long wave with Slicken's leaking the turtles. And Green Spirit wrecked, he says. Right, he is.
Yep,
Okay.
just a little bit of income. I think just reading that Julian is very high value, and leaking him is probably not going to happen.
Well, Burnt Das Builder, his nickname is. And we can see why he's living up to that here. So 840 value, wave 7. Easy hold for Mr. Burnt. And Green Spirit, yeah, there's that Disciple. So he's playing for a wave 8 send. And he will get a DT here from Slickens, but obviously Slickens just needed that to be able to afford his Archer. He still has a ton of Mythium saved up for a wave 8 send if that's how he wants to play it.
We'll easily get the mole and probably a Hermit post-income if this wave is long enough.
But he might just change his mind now because there was income on both Burnt and Green. So there's no pressure now on Drakir and Slickens. And now that Slickens sees the Disciple, well, maybe he just goes wave 9.
Yeah, that would be also a really viable target against Oculus.
Does
Of
he
course,
go
he
for-
does have the option for Death Cap, but
Is he getting a bit of a +4 here? I think he is.
it seems that way.
28% leak there on Slickens. He has 160 Mythium in the bank already.
And these long waves are really helping out Drakir and Slickens. They
Yeah,
have the worker lead.
advantage. Yeah.
He's just going for income, reading Green's value, knows that he's probably ready for the mole anyways.
Well, this is it, right? Like you can't imagine sending Power Mercs against Green Spirit. So he just
course.
goes for the income here. And obviously Green holds because he's nearly 1,000 value with only good units for the wave. Oh, is Green actually... He's actually building for 9 now.
Oh, interesting. Maybe he's making his
Changing his
own
mind.
reads. But maybe decides that if he does get the Mole Hermit, he does not want to leak the whole wave.
Yeah. So like this, he's got an easy hold. And expect Green to full push workers now.
Yep.
Burnt actually added on this wave, by the way. He was already 800 plus value on 7. And he builds
Yeah.
another 100 value.
It
Burnt,
seemed
hello?
like he was worried about covering, but maybe if he had checked Green's value, he would have realized that Green is actually just fine.
I think
And
he might have lost the U key from his keyboard. I think that might be the problem.
that might be the problem, actually. We'll
But
see if he
Drakir's
manages to
found
put it
his.
back.
Drakir's definitely got a working U button.
Yeah. Taking advantage of Slickens with the slight starve in the early game, and he's just really pushing his income now.
Yeah, Drakir continuing to snowball 16 workers and counting. And Burnt, who has received income every wave so far, actually only on 13. Like, Green Spirit's been under pressure, so I can kind of see why he's maybe a bit behind. But Burnt, I feel like, should be a bit more aggressive with those workers.
Yeah, and he really hasn't even punished Slickens too hard. There's just been some small leaks here and there.
There's another
But now we
60.
see everyone holding on to their Mythium. probably targeting a 11 cent.
Yeah, I guess they don't want to give away a venture.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it might not be a
Slickens-
tryhard send. There's sack in the game. One of the most powerful spells for defending.
Burnt just barely holding against the DT Snail while having 1100 value. Pretty impressive.
You know, usual God Gamer stuff.
Yeah. And look at the Mythium counts, by the way. So even though Drakir has been income sending every wave, he's still got the same amount of Mythium as both Green and Slickens, just because his workers are so
Yeah.
high.
And of course, he's paying a small price in his value, but if the keeps on going any longer, he'll catch up in value, and it won't be a problem at all.
Well, he's just gambling for no send here as well, by the way.
Yeah, builds the gate, hoping that this and venture is more than enough to dissuade people from sending on time.
Yeah. It's so hard, like in a tournament game, to make the gamble to send on wave 10 into venture.
Yeah,
Like
it's
on ladder,
very risky.
on ladder, I go for that play quite a lot because people
Yeah.
just think, well, they're not going to send 10 because there's venture. So then you send 10 and you crush them. But in a tournament, it's just such a gamble.
Ooh, okay, some tryhard stuff from Julian and Green,
Witches.
and ooh,
Oh,
going for the venture,
Burnt and
both of them
Green,
reading
okay.
the income.
So really nice read, actually. Burnt and Green read this perfectly here. They stayed low workers against the income sends from Drakir and Slickens. They take the venture, and now they're going to have a bit of an advantage. The problem is, Drakir and Slickens, they both take Sacrifice, which I think will enable them to hold here on 11, even against the try-hard sends.
Just an insane unit on 11, and Slicken's got some orchids.
We've got a hardened Mugman
This-
here from Drakir. Slicken's going to boost. He's not. He also held on to his sacrifice, so he didn't feel the need to sell anything here. So he's
Yeah.
kept hold of that. He can use it later in the game if he needs to.
And I guess the important thing is
The
they
Orchid's
even went
just
for
doing
Income
so much.
King.
Look at this. The wave is melting.
Yeah, it's insane.
Absolutely melting. So it's just a hold against a 300 full send. And Drakir looks like the same. Yeah, easy hold.
So the thing is, the important thing is the income lead, obviously, and the worker
Wow.
lead favoring Slickens and Drakir, but the venture is probably the big thing that will give Green and Julian a chance to come back.
It's not even that much of an advantage, though, honestly. So the sacrifice is already, what, 95 gold for picking sacrifice?
Mhm.
And they were able to like hold these try-hard sends on 11.
Yeah,
And
that
sure,
gives them
the-
an income advantage.
The venture's only giving you 210 gold. So it's only like 115 more than they're getting from the sacrifice anyway.
Yeah, and Drakir, I think, reading that there is no workers on the other side sending to him,
Yeah.
and taking a bit of not even a risk because he's so strong on 13 already. He can really just push hard. I'm not sure if they're gonna go for this 13 cent for a leak
I think
into
it's-
the venture, but
I kind of think
it
it's
is
going to be
the best
14
way.
from everybody. I don't
that
think
does what it
Drakir-
feels like.
don't think Drakir's going to go for a 13 send when he's so weak on 14. We talked about him liking to control the pace of the game. I feel like if he goes on 13, they just give up all of their pressure, and then they're
Yeah.
in trouble 14. Yeah, so they save the Mythium. I guess Drakir and Slickens just want to match Burnt and Green on their 14 send. But honestly, Slickens is like a god 14.
Yeah, he is very, very strong there.
He's feeling a little bit scared. He's spending 10 gold on his Orchid.
Yep.
Drakir not feeling scared.
Prepping for 14 already. He should add a split eventually.
Yeah, he
Or a
probably
next
will on
wave,
14. Probably will on 14.
He's got time.
Meanwhile, Burnt is not amazing on 14 either. And really living up to his name, by the way. Burnt the builder with 2.5k value on 13, same for Green Spirit. So these guys are well ahead in value, but well behind in workers. So let's see Is it going to be overbuild and starve that wins, or is it going to be aggression from Drakir and Slickens that wins?
So it's Tryhard Sends, Centaur from Drakir, Centaur Pack. That's really, really strong send on 14.
Yep.
Especially into the steeds.
Burnt and green, they do save. Okay, great. I really like to see that. So they are going for the overbuild and starve line of play. They've kept the value that they got from their venture. They didn't really push many workers off the 11 income send. They pushed a few, sure, but not many. Now they need to hold this send coming out from Drakir and Slickens, and then they're in a really good place on, say, wave 16. I think Drakir and Slickens can definitely go down on 16.
The thing about 16 is Drakir does have the flowers, but obviously with a big enough send, you can leak them.
He still has it in his role as well. That's a shame.
Also, Jesus, that is
6
probably a bigger spend than they expected, and it looks like he's leaking the whole way.
I mean, the Harpy and the Leviathan are putting out some serious damage, but now they're targeting the Centaur. Oh no!
Oh,
all of that pierce damage going into the natural unit and leaking it on 10% HP. That is brutal for Burnt.
But
meanwhile,
really
Green's
good job
Spirit.
Green.
Yeah, but he's split focusing. Look, he's half his stuff's on the pack leader, half his stuff's on the ogre.
And something to notice,
the ogre.
They have no king ups.
Yeah, this is a lot of damage actually. 11 creeps reaching the king, including a pack and an ogre.
It's gonna be the 15 send right away. I wonder if Drakir and Slickens will go for Income King, or they'll just be happy with this King Gold and skip. But they
getting
go.
a ton of gold here.
They go for the Income King. I feel like with Drakir's workers, this should be more than enough for him to hold well. And on the other hand, their king is really upgraded.
Yeah, and they'll fully upgrade as well, right? Because they've gone for the income. They're gonna max the king now, post income as well. We have Slickens boosting his orchids. So that's 40 gold worth of magic to shred the wave. Really high value, both players on 3.5k. I don't know, man. I think this is going to be rough.
I will say the Kraken will be hard for Drakir to hold, or to kill.
Oh, for sure.
He has no way of dealing with it, but he does have a lot of tank value, so we'll see how it goes.
Right, 680 Mythium walks into a bar. There's no counter. Or is there?
Well, Slickens is shredded the left side and is already on the boss.
He is, but now his Sovereign goes down. His Orchids go soon after. That will be a leak. It's just a question of whether he can kill the boss, and I don't think he can with that diffuse damage from the archers. And meanwhile, Drakir
as well.
92% there, 50 gold shutdown, 106% on Slickens. I don't think they die because this boss is low HP, but this is a ton of damage now.
Yeah, and now we'll see what the calls will be from here, right? This is where the game, again, becomes interesting with what wave do you choose to try and end the game on now.
Okay, so King HP advantage now goes over to Burnt and Green. I wonder if they just go 17, honestly. I'd love to see Burnt and Green just push really hard for a wave 17 send.
Yeah, and he is suing, or I don't know if he's suing or he's full pushing.
He is, yeah. This is a suicide call. So Burnt has good units to be able to at least hold the longest on 17 with those Havens and the DPS coming out from the Harpies. They know that Drakir is the threat on 17 with his Golems, with his Gate. So Green's just going for the suicide push. Slickens already not looking great on 17. He's got the Sovereign, which is weak. He's got the Orchids. He's got the Canopies, which are weak.
He pushed very aggressively to not the best call when you're pushing into someone who's suiciding, but I suppose they're trusting Drakir to hold anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Drakir
he's doing... Well, this is going to work out heavily in favor.
Very well for Green and Burnt, yeah. Wow, okay. So
the plus side is Drakir has a lot of workers already.
He does, yeah. He doesn't need to suicide. He already has 30 workers.
I wonder if Slickens will stop pushing now that he saw that.
Like, they have to know that Green leaking no send means he's suicided.
Yeah.
Well, he has stopped.
Push.
He has stopped, so he's not pushing post-income. They're probably feeling a little bit like, oh yikes, we've just pushed into a suicide play. But Drakir is still very strong here.
He is assembling a front line, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
He's undervalue, 500 undervalue, but he's got
And
3 hardened golems. He's got a full
I
Hellgate.
really dislike the send
Yeah,
from
the
green.
Centaur. I think the Centaur is trash. I think that
Kraken
should just.
is highly useless as well as a frontliner for a wave on 17, which is a ready arcane.
Yeah, I would prefer to see just like a million ogres, right?
Yeah, like pack and just ogre spam would do wonders. I mean, Centaur is gonna hit a lot of units. That's for
But
sure.
it's just
Like,
more pierce damage against
yeah,
like the spam fortified armor that he needs to break through.
and Slickens is dead in half a second.
Yeah, green
The
obviously
important
leaking
thing
full.
is here,
Julian?
but
I think is he able to hold?
he
Oh,
is
right.
gonna leak small. I think the range sends are just too much,
But Drakir leaks first. Drakir leaks first.
and that should be it.
Wow, what a game! What
Wow,
a game!
what a great call!
Double sent just to tilt Penny. Green spirit. Wow,
A little bit of sauce on the end.
unreal. 120% leak there. I mean, I feel like I kind of need to go into sandbox. This is unusual for a tournament play, right? But this is a 960 Mythium send. And I just need to prove to Mr. Green Spirit that there's probably a better send than Centaur into mass hardened golems on 17.
Yeah. To be fair, the Kraken does do good DPS against the golems and everything that he has.
Welcome.
That is one of the sides, and he really doesn't have a lot of DPS, so it is hard to kill. Like, it's in retrospect, it's actually not as bad as I thought, but
It's very, very tanky. Very, very.
just a little unfortunate. Drakir has absolutely no backline DPS in his build.
Yeah.
Those atoms just can't keep up in the late game.
Oh, seems like the ogres are doing work.
They're going for a bit of a leak.
Going for a bit of a leak. And much, much faster as well, it looks like.
Yeah, that is another thing. The speed of the ogre is,
Yeah.
I think,
Like the
You know-
only thing that mattered was how fast he leaks, right? Because they need to win the race. So it's
Yeah.
all about getting some damage in there. It's all about Drakir leaking before Julian does. Now the Centaurs, it turns out, were enough because it was a 1000 Mythium send. But I definitely think that some impact damage, like the ogres, like the pack leader, would just have been better there from Green.
yeah, and it's interesting that Slickens felt that he needed to Sui there, because I guess they were expecting Julian and Green to go for the same, like build it, like going for a bit of an overbuild.
Yeah.
And they thought, like Slickens was low workers, he needs to catch up to Drakir and actually be able to leak Green, but it ended up being the wrong call, which is just a great read from Julian
Yeah,
and Green.
it was a really good play there from Burnt and Green. You can't take that away from them. Like, flame the Centaur as much as you like, and believe me, I will. But but the actual play itself was very, very solid. So they knew that Drakir was a god on 17. They also knew that Slickens was very weak. And they know that Burnt has a pretty solid chance of stalling that wave out the longest with his Havens.
Yeah.
So they just suicide on Green. Like they go, okay, well, Drakir's the only threat. So I'm just going to push all of my gold into workers. We're going to break the guy who's strong there on 17, and we're going to take the game. And it worked out perfectly for them. So really, really nice call there. From Burnt
Something
and
to
Green.
note even is that Drakir's send on 17 was bigger than Slickens, even after that, like what, 17
really?
worker push from Slickens?
That's pretty impressive, and it just goes to show, because I actually think Drakir and Slickens were ahead for like pretty much the whole game. Right, Drakir in particular just snowballed really hard through the early game, and these guys were they were leading income, they were leading value, they were getting big leaks on Burnt and Green when they wanted to. I think there was the wave 11 hold was pretty big, and then of course Burnt and Green going for that adventure play was pretty solid. So now these guys have got the 1-0 lead, and that's, you got to feel confident now when you've got the lead coming into game number 2, right?
Yeah. That 15 was, even though they had gotten the undercut on 14 for a lot of damage, they couldn't hold 15 at all in it. It gave
Yeah.
Julian and Green just enough to have like even footing for the 17 fight.
Yeah, and they took a lot of damage there on foot. A lot of damage. I'm
Yeah.
kind of surprised. Like I liked the play there from Burnt and Green to overbuild and just hold past the send on 14. But I think they overestimated their strength there. And they both leaked pretty heavily. They took, what was it, like 60-70% king damage?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it turns out it was the right call because they got so much like return damage done on 15.
Yeah. Drakir had the right read with the heavy push, and Slickens was just a bit too far behind to leak Green
Yeah.
from the venture through the venture money. Like obviously when you're sending 700 it doesn't matter. With that extra like 200 gold, it's not gonna change. But Slickens just didn't have a big enough send to leak Green there.
Absolutely. All right. Well, here we go, guys. It's game number 2. There is a 1-0 advantage on the right-hand side. That is team WWSALPPD. Bernd das Brot und Greengeist. So they're feeling pretty solid now coming into game number 2. Bernd does go for YOLO again, and we see another 3 greed pickups from the other players. I really wish that some of the other players would mix it up a bit more.
Yeah, I would love to see something like a cartel or even a castle, which Slickens has been playing a lot before his cartel adventures.
Now, Burnt showing that he's not quite a particularly skilled player. He rolls the Pota with YOLO, but he doesn't roll the mask. So clearly his skill is a little bit lacking there on the rolling front. You got to do better than that, dude.
Yeah. If you're gonna pick YOLO,
I'm kind of surprised that he's not opening with Pixie, to be honest, because I know that Burns in particular thinks that Pixie is very, very strong. I'm kind of surprised to see him not open with that here.
Suppose Green going for the flower to make some potential disasters open up, but
yeah, it's true.
They still do have a potential disaster waiting for them on 7.
Oh yeah, like their current openers not looking amazing on 7, and actually Burnt not really looking amazing on 7 in general. His only real hope to hold any kind of 7 send is going to be a boosted veteran.
Yeah. And Slicken's going for that pyro, which I know that would tilt Julian quite a bit.
Yes.
And Drakir going for maybe a 6-worker opener with the Adam Cat.
Slickens actually has a pretty insane roll, because he's got that pyro. He also has Disciple Boar as well. So Disciple's going to give him all the single target that he needs. Boar obviously is a ton of AoE burst at the start of the wave, but also just a very, very solid tank. So all around pretty decent AoE roll from Slickens, but also with that much needed single target in the form of the Starcaller.
Yep. I will say the APS is a little out of place, maybe too many synergies to pull off, but if he rerolls into a Doomsday, then
oh wow, yeah,
that'll
that would
be
be
just
spicy.
what he's looking for. So will we see 6 workers? Yep, from Drakir he goes 6 workers, Julian goes 6 workers.
Very nice. So Drakir does send into Burnt's 6-worker push here. He adds Gargoyle, which means he holds pretty much anything, because Gargoyle and Pota are OPOP on wave 3, number 3.
Yep.
Lickens, of course, doesn't need to build anything. He's playing Pyro, so zero threat there.
And honestly, with this snail that's coming his way, we might just see him go 7 workers.
I think he probably does, yeah. I think he does.
Oh, especially if it's
Snail and a
King
King up. Yeah, he might even go 8.
Yeah. Slickens is definitely not someone who's afraid to push.
100% no.
Drakir's Adam is not tanking as much as he probably wants, but
no, it's kind of a shame that Green couldn't afford the snail. I think that would have probably meant for a pretty decent lead.
Yeah, and
like
instead
this,
it's just going to be...
Yeah, maybe the lizard sneaks through, but that's about it.
Yeah. So Drakir getting away with his 6 workers early.
Yeah, the lizard makes it. So now Drakir and Slickens both on 7, while Burnt and Green have to stay on a miserable 6.
I would imagine they try and push their income a bit here. Yeah, and it is going to be income from both of them.
Okay, but now Burnt and Green, they're going to have the pressure advantage, right? Because both of them are going to hold their sends here. There is a Chloropixie now from Burnt.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. Let the cheese
I
begin.
would imagine Drakir is already thinking about Wave 7.
Yeah. But Burnt and Green, they can go for pretty big sends on 6 if they want to. After this send here, Burnt's going to full push. There's a full send as well. Here goes for the snail post income.
Perhaps thinking maybe he could catch Julian greeting for 7 workers.
But
Or
Julian
maybe he's just going to catch him
managed
greeting
to-
on 6 workers.
Did he mess up his split because his priestess wasn't tanking for the Peewee?
Yeah, it did not seem like
Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah, I think the Peewee is like a little too high.
he messed up his positioning, and now he's paying for it. And Green also leaking against the 80 send. Only a lizard, but still, this is going to be some king damage now.
Yep, obviously we see some pretty big Mythium counts.
Yeah. And remember
That's
that
an
Burnt
upgrade.
gets +8 every wave as well.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be juicy, probably for this Wave 6, like you mentioned. I would imagine Slicken shifts a little bit to get Canopy, and Drakir will get a Nightmare, probably? His best hope.
Yeah. But they might even just go like straight 7 themselves now from Burnt and Green. I think they
Yeah, that
can
would
get
work.
big damage done on 6, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them just go for like an Ogre on 7 or something.
Yeah, Ogre on 7 is notoriously hard to deal with. See, he's even getting the Chloropixie killed here.
Yep.
Another 8 Mythium.
Really
And we're going to
juicy
see
there from
Drakir go
Burnt.
for some income. I'm assuming they felt a bit of the pressure. And Slicken's also going for some income. And you're right. Julian and Green
Yeah.
just going for the longer save.
Do you know what? It's wave 8. I'm calling it. It's wave 8. There's going to be Ghost Knight.
Oh, there's going to
Burnt.
be a JK on this lane for sure.
I
He does have the Disciple.
I think if Drakir and Slicken save here, then Burnt and Green can't afford to skip 7.
Yeah.
But because they kind of felt pressured into this income send now on wave 6, I'm pretty certain that Burnt and Green will just go straight wave 8.
I think they at least Slickens could have skipped. He added this extra bazooka here, right? The canopy was probably what he needed to hold good well enough. And we do see a Zerker coming out from Julian. Should be good enough to clean this up.
And now
Assuming
his
it's
positioning is
Asteria.
looking really good, right? Now his area is kind of splitting perfectly there. It does die in the end, but that's fine.
Yeah.
The Berserker's going to kill at least 2 of those Roccos. And actually, if he leaks 1, that's pretty much perfect. Oh, but
Yeah.
never mind, because Green Spirit, it looks like, is also leaking 1.
They're going for really nice Burleaks here. Oh, and they're
Oh,
just
they
going to
go
go
for
for
the
the 7.
7. Honestly, I think that's a mistake. I honestly think that's a
And-
mistake. I think they could just destroy them on wave 8.
Yeah.
Even though Slickens has Disciple in his role, he's still leaking everything on wave 8 versus a Ghost Knight.
To be fair, this Ogre is probably going to be tough to deal with.
Yeah, the Ogre's not bad.
And the Mimic should... There is
I
one unit
wonder-
on his board that doesn't get chopped by the Mimic.
If Slickens is expecting... Yeah, there we go. So
There
Slickens
we go.
is expecting the wave 8 Ghost Knight. He adds the Disciple here, and that actually works out well for Burnt, because Disciple, amazing versus Ghost Knights on 8, not so good against Ogres on 7, though.
Yeah. And there are some very big sends. 240,
Big boy
220.
send. Yeah.
Mimic Brute is almost impossible to hold as well as the Ogre, obviously.
Neko getting overwhelmed by the Mimic. The Nightmare's living a very long time, but now it goes down, so that's going to be a big leak from Drakir. Slickens as well, 80% there. 78% from Drakir. Okay, I called
That
it
is
a
gonna
mistake. Maybe it's not so bad.
There's some gold here and here, I guess. Oh, not
Yeah.
even leaking on Julian's lane.
Very
But,
small
I
leak
mean-
on green. Julian does hold, and he'll be able to full cover.
Yeah, so much king damage.
Yeah, a ton of king damage actually. 50% already on 7. Okay, fair play. I'll revise my earlier statement. Burnt and green. I think turns out your send was not that bad after all.
Plus side, and maybe the difference between some of the other long save games we've seen today is that Dracare and Slickens have workers, so they're not out of the game completely.
Yeah.
Julian going for some fake workers.
The fake workers are pretty damn solid, though, honestly.
Yeah.
Let me look at the total Mythium. So, Julian, despite being 2 less workers than Dracare and Slickens, he's actually the highest Mythium generated in the whole game.
That's very nice.
That's the power of Chloropixie.
Yeah, and
Now,
there's no risk.
They need to die,
like with
which they do.
friends.
They're pretty solid. That's just 316 Mythium, right?
Yeah. Everyone has a decent amount of mythic, and we'll see what wave they want to target. Maybe just a Shira and
A
9?
full send on 9, but Burnt is going to get the Azeria. And Dracare, I'm not sure if he's drunk or what, but those are imps. Now,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but imps are not that great against Azeria, right?
Yep, especially with the split, right? You're only going to get 1 imp over here
Yeah.
and 1 imp over here, so you're really only getting half an imp, which is very strong against, the right side, but...
Yeah, I mean, sure, this stuff's going to crumble, but, like, they're Chloropixies. He wants them to die.
Yeah, they were gonna crumble either way, right?
Yeah. And Green Spirit, imagine, if you will,
Oh,
sending
I actually
power
built this
mercenaries
guy.
against Green Spirit.
Yeah, he has a death cap. It's
He has a death
going to
cap.
do quite well.
Yeah. He's looking really solid here. That should just be a hole. Although, actually, the death cap is maybe tanking a bit too much because he's got so much value in these Daphnes here. But actually, he just looks fine, right?
Yeah, it wasn't enough to wipe the wave, but the Daphnes will clean up.
Yeah, maybe he leaks a mole. I'm not quite sure what wins this matchup between the Daphne and the mole. But yeah,
Just an
Burnt Dash
easy
Builder
hold
doing
from
what he
both of
does
them.
best. He's plus 15 on this wave. Easy hold from both Burnt and Green.
Yeah.
And now these guys are just leagues ahead in this game.
11 or 12, or probably 11 looks like.
I mean, there's
The
PTA
problem-
available, there's a Lizard Army. And Slickens, even though he has boars, how does he ever hold against, like, a ram on 11?
Yeah, that is a bit of a problem.
The best defensive option is Guardian Angel, and Slickens doesn't really have a target for that.
Yeah, the boar is not the worst target. It's gonna be some HP, but still, it's nothing like a Doppel or a Sovereign coming.
Yeah. Alright, so we've got 300 Mythium now on both Burnt and Green. There's 4 eyes there from Green. I would expect to see the Ram from Burnt. He's even going to Pro Leak here. He is. Very nice Pro Leak there. 12 HP left on
Skillfully,
the Granddaddy.
not even on shutdown.
Yeah. There's that Sea-Tram as well, as promised. I think we might just see game here. Slickens and Dracare, they're going to need to do something special to survive this.
I would imagine they take GA or they try PTA King Ups, I guess.
Yeah, PTA King Ups is not a bad call, honestly. Like, GA, I think, is not the best value. It's certainly not for Slickens. Alright, there's GA on Dracare. Where does he want it?
Presumably his Nightmare, but I guess it's not amazing here.
Well, they just need to survive this, right? So
Yeah.
they have to be panicking. So I think he just puts it on the Samurai.
That's the best value for this wave for sure.
And Slickens did
He's
go for
gonna
PTA
place it,
King-Ups. He
Okay,
actually
he
puts
goes
it on this. I'm not sure about that. Is it?
Suppose if it...
It's not tanking anything.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
got 1 Quill War on it.
He's not going to get any GA
Any
value.
GA value, yeah.
Like at any point in the game. That seems to be a bit of an uncharacteristic misplay there from Dracare.
And there's just no way you can hold around
Yeah.
with these units.
Flickins does go for the home run there, 88% against the massive 460 send from Burnt. And
Oh.
Dracare, I mean,
The
the
GA
thing
actually-
comes back to life, but
I think it would have been higher value if it was... Yeah, he might have actually...
Sure.
Yeah.
So 15 creeps reach the king. They have got a lot of king upgrades, but I think they just die here.
It'll be close for sure.
King trying his absolute best, but it's not enough.
Yeah, and that'll just be
2-0 there
GG.
from Burnt and Green. Very, very well played, those guys.
Yeah, really great. Long saves and then going for the finish.
Let's just scroll through some waves and kind of look at the turning points in this game. So, nothing really special happens until wave 4, where Burnt and Green leak a little bit more than they wanted to, but that's kind of completely fine. They keep saving. Now we get the income sends on 6 from Drakir and Slickins, and that's really kind of putting the nail in their coffin, because it's a really, really long wave 6. Burnt and Green get these massive 200 plus Mythium sends on 7. Big leaks, taking their king down to 50%. And then they just go straight wave 11. These guys playing like giga tryhards here in the Nova Cup.
Yeah, very, very nice reads from them.
Really, really nice. Like this game number 1 felt probably a bit closer. Like I feel like Drakir and Slickins were leading game number 1, and Burnt and Green like made a very, very good comeback play to clutch that one. But game number 2, Burnt and Green, they were just absolutely crushing it from like start to finish. They just really led the pace of the game. They didn't give Drakir and Slickins any room to breathe, and they just destroyed them. Like this was really textbook play from Burnt and Green. Very, very nice.
Yeah, very clean. You know, long save, and then don't give up the pressure after that, and just go for the kill.
So really, really solid play from those guys. Let me see another game. All right, Danny should have given you spectate rights, by the way. You might have to relog to see if you can do it. And then, who have we got? So Toykan is in a game, Ashton is in a game. I think they're playing against each other, so that should be a pretty nice one to watch, actually.
It's Toykan and Boone against X-Crash, so the Dutchman.
Well, in that case, let me spectate Toykan. And you should be able to get in. Do you know how to use spectate?
Yeah, it's just spectate and then their name, right?
Yeah. So you could just type spectate Toykan into global and you should be able to get in. If it doesn't work, just restart your game and hopefully it works then. Okay, so we join this game from XGod and Ashton versus Toykan and Boone. We're on wave number 4. Things look pretty even, though Toykan and Boone have a worker lead. XGod and Ashton have a Mythium lead. What? Oh wow. Ashton actually going for a massive leak here against the Dino from Toykan. And XGod as well. Right, we're currently looking at a 1-1 series between Toykan and XGod. But this is a pretty solid advantage that XGod and Ashton are giving away to Toykan and Boone, I should say. So a big leak from both of them here on wave number 4. And sure, they go for their sends, their counter-attack sends on 5. But
it doesn't look like I'm able to spectate, and I tried relogging, but
still not working.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let me go for a screen share again so you can see what's going on.
Thank you.
Hopefully we don't have any frame issues on this. Alright, do you see?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so we just saw really big leaks from XGod and Ashton, both leaking pretty much half of their waves on 4, taking 30% king damage there. Now they go for the full send against Toykan and Boone, but obviously those guys just got so much extra gold from the leaks on 4 that I think they're going to do pretty well.
The canopy and flower combination on 5 is a solid one. You know, it's tough to send against. You don't want to send the brutes into the flower, but you don't really want to send a hermit versus canopy either.
And just perfect matchups as well. His canopy's tanking the hermit, while his flower was tanking half of the wave. Now, sure, he's going to leak because he never kills the hermit there, but
he's more than happy.
He's killed pretty much everything else. Yeah, he's killed the entire wave, leaking just snails
and
and
the
a
same
hermit.
with Boone. And now they got a Mythium advantage and a worker lead. Boone going all the way to 10 workers.
Pretty solid. And this is 1-1, so everything to play for here in game number 3. Alright, Jules is saying 60% chance for Toykin and Boone, and I kind of agree with him. I think they're clearly in the lead. I think that 60% probably needs to go to something like 75 after this income send here from Xgod and Ashton, because Toykin and Boone continue to save, and if we look at the builds, I think Xgod and Ashton are going to really struggle against something like Mimic on 7, although having said that, Ashton, I thought he was going for a shift. I thought he was going to get that Millennium on 7, but he just dropped a Mudman there at the very last second.
He was on very low value before that.
But I think that's going to seal his fate, right? Because now he's got no chance to get either the Sovereign or the Millennium for wave 7.
Yeah, and it's going to be Brutes in his lane and just destroying him. Boone even going for a bit of a pro week here? Or
he's
is
going to
this
hold.
a pro hold?
Look at this, just amazing aggro split there for Boone. Couldn't really ask for any better. That Bone Crusher just completely smurfing it there, surviving at very low HP.
We are going to see
There's another Ogre.
an Ogre on 7.
I mean, it worked in the last game, so why wouldn't it work here? Xgod has 200 gold to spend, but really the best thing he can do is, like, Nekomata.
Yeah, cat stacks, but the Ogre will just melt it anyways. And
It's
going
just
for the
not
Halo
gonna
on
cut it.
6 really hurts, because it's not going to do that much damage on 7 with so many creeps.
Does Ashton harden? He does not. And these are big boy sends now. There's 240 going into Xgod's lane, 200 going into Ashton's lane. I think these guys are going to be
2 Brutes on the
serious
cat,
trouble.
1 Brute on the Mudman. It's not looking good.
Nope. Ashton's right side split has crumbled, and now his Neko's going down as well. This is going to be a big, big leak from Ashton, and Xgod as well. 88% there in lane 1. Ashton's doing better than that, but still 59% from him. All 3
Brutes and
making
an
it through.
Ogre. That's going to be quite a bit of king damage.
This is going to be a ton of king damage, yeah.
Even the
Absolute metric ton
immolate,
of
so
king
there's
damage.
nothing that gonna help. It's not gonna help kill the Ogre or the
Ogre's getting
Brutes.
so much damage in. King dropping down below 30% here on 7.
Wow, 50% king just from that. And we saw what happened in the previous game, and I would imagine Boone and Toykin are gonna give up their pressure and look for the kill now.
Yeah, they're looking really solid actually. 14 workers on both Toykin and Boone. I wonder if they're going for a 9 cent. Xgod and Ashton, they kind of keep up the income king play as well.
Yeah, it's possible to go for the 9 cent. We will see probably a bit of an overbuild, and the safer call would be to go for a big 11 probably.
Yeah, and then there's just not really any counterplay to that, I don't think, from Xgod. Like, he can get the Haven maybe with Pawn Shop.
I will say Giant Snails actually looks quite strong against Xgod.
Looks really strong against both of them actually.
Yeah, they don't... I mean, Ashton with the Doomsday will clap it, but in that
He's not
case, if
gonna
he
build a
goes for the
Doomsday
Millennium...
11, right?
Yeah, he's gonna struggle on 11 then.
But they actually go for a 9 cent, okay.
Fair enough.
So they have a bit more chance, I think, to hold here for Xgod and Ashton. So
For sure, their values are pretty reasonable, right?
I think Xgod probably does something like a bunk here and then just throws a buckler in the split. I think that's the best he can do. Okay, he goes for the bunk in the split just to prove me wrong. And Ashton's actually going for a frontline Avenger.
Odd, but
Ashton?
suppose it's fine as a Swift tank, but not on 9.
I mean, it's going to pull all of the brutes, but it's also going to pull
Yeah,
all of
that's
the wave
fair.
creeps. He didn't even harden, by the way.
I guess he felt since he was plus 50, he didn't feel the need, which is, you know, reasonable. And Xgod is sniping all the brutes, so
Xgod's
he
actually
should do
doing
alright.
very well over here.
Yeah.
Very well. I think he just holds. Meanwhile, Ashton, he's not holding, but he's doing very well as well against a big, big send. That's 220 Mythium. He just leaks 46%. Okay, X-God's not going to hold, but... Oh, maybe he does. Okay, he needs one creep. Not bad, not bad. I think X-God and Ashton are both pretty happy with this. Oh, you're in the game?
So, yeah, I'm able to spectate.
Oh, cool. Well, in that case, I'll
It's like-
close the screen share. Oh, very good. Right, 24% king health left on the side of Ashton and X-God. But they're not out yet. Problem is that the workers are kind of telling a different story. Like, Boykin and Boone, very, very far ahead in the worker game. Both of them on fire. And yeah, Ashton just keeping up that income train as well. So sure, he's the highest income player in the game, but it's at the expense of just taking away any kind of pressure from Toykin and Boone.
Yeah. And from my experience with Boone on the ladder, he's a very smart player in terms of ending the game. So
Yeah.
he's going to make the right call, I think.
I wonder, do they just go 12, even though X-God has a pretty much guaranteed Banana Haven there? Just because Ashton is looking really weak on 12, and if the send is big enough, you can still break a Haven on 12.
Yeah, it's not like he has a great DPS source behind him. And they are going to offer the pawn shop, right? Playing defensively, feeling, you know, there is a lot of pressure on them.
There's counterattack picked on Boone, who also
Boone going
full
for the-
pushes. Yeah,
I
so
like
he,
this a lot.
he wants the extra 45 Mythium, and I think this will just be a 12 set.
Yeah, and 12 is good because we'll protect the weak wave, right? 13
Yeah.
is not looking the best for Toykin.
So X-God will definitely have a Haven on 12, but the send is going to be like north of 500 Mythium. So
Yeah,
Good luck with
it's
that.
gonna be tough.
yeah. Oh, he goes for a second bump here. Does that jeopardize his
Presumably-
ability to get the Haven?
Worst case, he'll pawn shop the cat, probably.
Yeah.
But
Alright, Ashton is prepping. He's adding a ton of golems and mudmen here.
and this
But-
is surely gonna be counterattack.
Yeah,
It's
for
not
sure, for
even
sure.
a. It's a pretty solid counterattack. He's only gonna leak 5 creeps,
Yeah.
or
Maybe
even
he
4
gets one more.
creeps.
Ah, never mind. One of them attacks the wrong one. Unlucky.
Yeah, it's actually just out of range. But you can actually see the visual effect of counterattack, which is, you know, maybe letting them know that something is about to happen next wave.
Yeah. And here we get the double ogre from Boone and the mole. Bit of a shame that he gave the 25 gold shutdown, but he does get 45 Mythium from that, and of course the longer wave.
So the Haven's here. The problem is there's an ogre here and an ogre here.
Yeah. And a mole, and another, like, 120 Mythium on top as well.
Is Ashton going for the
Pyro
secret
tech.
pyros?
Very nice. Maybe
And
he, like,
he's-
pawn shops this mudman and replaces it over here as well.
Yeah, it goes
Yep.
for a harden.
Does.
Yep. Bleeding the split. Very, very nice.
he's
Oh, he's
just
going
getting
for a third pyro. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
And now you full harden? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Ashton just holds it.
Yeah, no mold, no hermit. It's gonna. The pyros are gonna cook.
Yeah. Really, really nice play there from Ashton.
And there's double Haven. Some pawn shop action happening on both lanes.
Pretty
This
solid.
second Haven is not going to do much, though. It's going to do a lot of damage to the wave, but the ogres are for sure going to cut through.
He's still leaking like 139% with double Haven on X-God.
Yeah,
Wow. I mean, just wow.
really nice play from Ashton, though.
Yeah. I don't know if this is enough to keep them in the game, though, because this is still
Yeah, I
two
just
full HP
realized
ogres.
that those are some big leaks.
Yeah. Oh, is it enough?
This ogre's hitting hard.
Oh, it's
It
all
looks
ogre!
like- Oh,
Defeat.
wow.
Oh, man. That was an intense game. So Toykin and Boone, they take the series 2-1, and that means that the double Dutch team are going to make it through to day 2.
Impressive. Toykin sobering up just in time.
I think this is the second time in a row that our 3-time Nova Cup champions, X-God and Ashton, have actually lost on day 1.
Yeah,
So they've gone
definitely.
from clapping like 3 times in a row to going out
Yeah,
in round 2. I think
there are
that,
just so many good teams.
yeah, really, I feel like the level of competition is just getting better and better each month.
Yeah, and you'll even see in ranked ladder, people are playing a lot better in terms of winning games.
Yeah,
Like you can't just walk into any ranked match and assume it'll be a free win.
yeah.
Like everyone is quite good, and it's in part due to like tournaments. Like people are seeing how great players are winning games and copying that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And as kind of I call myself like an old school player. I think it's really, really great to see all of the new blood just climbing the ladder and really like stamping their mark on the Legion scene. So
Mhm.
you've got players like yourself, for example, but
Thank you, thank you.
obviously like Drakir and Lucy and Slickins and all of those people who are really like stamping their mark in the top 10 and in the tournament scene. I
Yeah,
think it's really, really great to see. It just makes Legion that much more fun when there's all of the extra competition, I think. So
yeah.
really, really good. And yeah, we just see it in the quality of games in these tournaments as well, right? Like this has been another fantastic day one for the Nova Cup. And I'm just really excited to see what happens tomorrow as well.
And shout out to Boone and Dwyken for playing double YOLO all 3 games.
Oh, God Gamers. Absolute God Gamers.
Absolute legends.
Yeah. And I heard, oh, never mind. It seems someone was trolling in the Twitch chat. Somebody told me that Shadow and Toho 2-0'd against King Guns and Widdowson, but unfortunately they lost. So, unlucky.
I suspect there may have been a misdirect in that.
Yeah, I think I mean, they made me look. So fair play to random Twitch troll for at least making me check. But yeah, so it looks like we've got our bracket sorted for tomorrow. Let me see if I can bring that up on. Bear with me, bear with me. There we go. So that might be a little bit small on stream, but hopefully it's fine. So, for tomorrow's matchups, it looks like we've got Abratsiet, King Dans and Widdowson, and they will be playing against Drinking Over Winning. That's Toykin and Boone, who we just saw beat 3 times champions X Crash. And then on the other half of the bracket, we're going to have Fiesta, which is Aviator and Tuvis. So that's an exciting one to watch. And they're
Yeah,
going to be
new
facing
team.
off against WWS8LPPD, which is Burnt and Green, who obviously we saw earlier against the Save players. So very, very solid couple of semi-finals there. It's going to be really interesting to watch. So everybody in Twitch, make sure you're back here again. Same time tomorrow. That's 7 p.m. European time. And what time is it US?
Think it's 9 a.m. PST, 10 a.m. PST, something
But don't
around
quote you
that.
on that, right?
Don't quote me.
So yeah, guys, it's going to be another fantastic semi-final and grand final event tomorrow. Make sure you're here. And before we go, I just want to shout out to my co-caster Ofma. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the stream, dude. First time casting, but it's been very, very high quality, I think. So again, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for hanging out with me. It makes it so much better when I've got somebody else on the cast, especially someone who is, kind of a top 10 player in their own right and really knows what they're talking about in the
Yeah,
casting chair. So thank you
thanks,
again, dude,
Benny.
for
It's
joining.
been a lot of fun casting, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Hope we get some good games.
Amazing. Well, likewise here as well. So without any further ado, guys, I think we will end the cast here. And again, just big shout out to Ofma, big shout out to all of the tournament organisers. That's, of course, everybody at Auto Attack Games for making this happen, but also Natto Dog, Schnerd, and Seraphin, who put in a ton of work behind the scenes to make these Nova Cups happen. So, guys, on that note, peace out, and we will see you here tomorrow. Goodbye.